I should have been a loser. And what I mean by that, and that might sound kind of weird, when I look back on my life and knowing the things I do know about myself, I probably should have been a loser. And if that sounds weird to you, let me explain a little bit further. The older I get, the more I realize that a lot of things that culture pushes is not necessarily the most healthy for us, right? My best example, or maybe not my best example, is sports betting. I made a video on that a while back. Culture, when you're watching a game, there are so many sports betting commercials, and I have my own thoughts about sports betting. I won't get into that much, but I think we can probably all agree that sports betting and gambling in general is probably not what we should be doing long term. And so these are the things that culture really pushes. And the only reason culture pushes these things is to make more money. It's these companies that want to make more and more money at the expense of potentially getting people hooked on something that could very much alter their life. But to kind of digress a little bit, why I think I kind of should have been a loser is ultimately I'm just kind of a simple guy. The world kind of tells us not to be simple. I'll touch more on that here in a sec. I kind of already did, but I have more to come with that. I have ADHD, which I've talked about in other videos. And while it doesn't necessarily change my life that much, it is something that has kind of made me, recently I've understood it more. But because of my ADHD, I was never medicated. I struggled a lot in school because of that, really struggled to pay attention. Thankfully, I do have a relatively high IQ, nothing crazy, but I think that's what allowed me to still do okay in school. I was definitely a B or a C student. But I was able to I don't know how to really word it, but I was able to I have enough attention to detail to kind of understand certain topics, and the ones that were interesting to me, I would really study and actually get to know. But in school, there were so many things that we learned that I just could not care about. And oh my gosh, there's so many classes, even in high school and college. I'm like, well, why am I taking these classes? Anyways, another thing that culture pushes a lot is this need to always be productive. And there are people out there. My mom is a great example of somebody who wakes up early in the morning and she does not stop doing something until around 10 o'clock at night, where she crashes out. Now, I am the opposite. I'm a night owl. I don't actually like being that productive. And then when I say that, I'm not being lazy. It's just that I don't always need to be doing something considerably productive throughout my day. Some people do. Some people have jam-packed their schedules for an entire day and are always being super productive. And while I think that works for some people, somebody like myself, I can't get that to work. And I think some of the highest producing people are sometimes the most successful. And I just can't force that upon myself. And I say that is I'm not necessarily a loser because I can't force myself to be ultra productive. But in our world, there's this huge push to just be extremely productive in everything that you do. And if you use that productivity to build a business, there's a chance that you will be very successful, at least in the eyes of culture, at least financially, right? One of my favorite quotes, and this is a little off topic, is some people are so poor that all they have is money. Great quote. I think of that sometimes when I see somebody who seems ultra successful, like one of my old bosses. This dude was probably making $300,000-$400,000 a year. He was a partner at this company that I was with. However, this dude was so lost. He was he was just a narcissist. He'd gotten divorced a few years earlier. His kids were just out of control. He would tell me about them. We'd be driving on the road, traveling, and he would have this conversation with the kids and their therapist, and the therapist would just be basically telling him how bad his kids were, and he was just trying to be a parent. Whatever, not necessarily the point. Let me dive back into my actual topic. Another thing is I've always been very gifted athletically. And so athletics always came really easy to me. However, I played a lot of sports growing up and I never focused on one sport specifically. And if you have ADHD, you know how hard it is to really just focus on one thing for a super long time. And so I would play a lot of different sports, and I was a very seasonal sports player. So, like every sport has its seasons, and that's when I would play those sports. So I never really got super good at a sport to like actually consider going pro. I do think I have a lot of athletic ability, but I kind of found myself being so good at athletics that I didn't have to probably try as hard as others. And I think that kind of hurt me as well because I kind of got in this mindset that I will always just be good or better. And eventually, the older I got, the more I realized that I'm not necessarily better. And so I think that has a lot to do with life principles as well. Because if you're at your job and you're not necessarily trying to get better, people will be better. That's another reason why I think I could have definitely been a loser, or I should have been a loser, is because like with many things in my life, I just don't put the extra effort in. Some things I do, and recently I do put the extra effort in. Like this video is not meant for me to come off and sound like I'm just lazy, because I definitely don't think so. Like I do work really hard at some things, but there are many times where I'm like, look, I've done what I need to do today. I'm just going to chill the rest of the day. And I think that's super important for everyone. You know, once you do what needs to be done for the day, I don't think there's a reason to just keep grinding. I'm really kind of this 9 to 5 kind of guy where like my work gets done during working hours. And when I'm done for the day, I'm done for the day. I want to go do something else that's fun. Some people just work all the time. I don't think that's healthy, even if your personality allows you to do it. There's so many things that I think are just so unhealthy with that kind of lifestyle, but I won't get into too much of that. Where I ultimately wanted to go with this video is there's a lot of things in my life that I think I should have been a loser. If I had different parents, if I had a different upbringing, I might have been, because I do see traits in myself that I think a lot of young men are seeing, where the world hasn't necessarily done them any favors. To go back to my original point in the beginning of this video, so how sports betting just gets pushed all over the place. And it's really affecting young men the most. And if you get caught up in a gambling addiction or any other sort of addiction, you really feel not only like a loser, but you feel like you have failed yourself, your family, even like the people around you. And you kind of see yourself as this outcast. However, what I want to say is that's just not the case. The things that culture really pushes hard are not always the best things. And I think we've always seen them as the best things. Like another great example is just technology in general. This everlasting push for better technology. Is it actually good? Or is it forcing us into these weird holes where more productivity is considered better, right? With computers, we are more productive than ever. However, we have more work than ever. So, our computers essentially good or bad? And if we don't conform to these things that society pushes, are we just losers? Or maybe are we something greater? Right? Are we kind of going down our own path to where not conforming to some things that society pushes is actually here's my Gen Z term for you, based, right? Are we more based? How I'm going to end this video. I think the greatest thing you can do is ultimately just pursue what you think will help you in your life the most, but do so with a lot of introspection. So like if you're pursuing education, and if you're somebody who wants to go get a bachelor's, a master's degree, do so strategically, right? Because all those degrees may not actually help you get the job you want. Work hard. Look to always just be a better version of yourself. Like I said, be very introspective, meaning looking inward to see the things that you maybe do poorly, but also don't overlook the things that you do well. Things that you do well are also things to be celebrated. Don't always look at the bad. Like I said, always better yourself, looking to create a better life and do the things that you think you need to do better, but also take the time to rest and recoup after a good day. Anyway, I'm not sure if this video made sense. I was spitballing through most of it. But these are just kind of the few reasons why I feel like I could have been a loser. And maybe some of you guys will resonate with this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.